Hi, everybody. I hope that you're doing well. I figured I would do a general reading for the collective. Um, I I haven't done one of these before, but I really feel like it because then anyone can jump in and join at any time. And please note, these are general readings, so the messages will not resonate for everyone. So please just take what does and leave the rest. Let's see what's going on for everybody right now. Just a general reading, get a feeling for what the energy is like. We've got, hi, Rachel. I'm not doing bad things. Welcome. I'm glad to see you. Okay. So thank you for the like, sweetheart. The first card that came out is generosity, number 22. A true spiritual life is not possible without a generous heart, Buddha. When you act in the true spirit of generosity with no expectations, your heart expands outwardly as a consequence of the compassion and loving kindness to be found within. This is a cultivation card. Hi, Sylvie. Welcome. So this is a cultivation card, number 22. So 2 and 2 comes down to stability and also would come down to a house. So if we look at the world as though it's a house, right? This card actually came up in reverse. And isn't that ironic? Generosity is not one of the focal points of humanity right now. um, that is a little bit alarming because it's almost like we've all gotten to this point of independence where we are all struggling to survive. And because we're struggling, it's like one for all, not all for one. And nobody, or I shouldn't say nobody, but a lot of people aren't reaching out and helping each other as much as they could do. Now, in fairness, that could be because there are givers and there are takers. So it's really hard for people, I think, to discern the type of individuals that they're dealing with, especially when you look at the psychological components of so many people. And funny as I say that, okay, thank you, Spirit. They're confirming this. When you have the Queen of Cups in reverse, as well as the Ace of Swords, this to me is stating someone who could be very manipulative, emotionally manipulative. And I think what's really sad is that a lot of people have been taken advantage of, or they have been messed over by these types of emotional manipulators who prey on our kindness. And I think that that has really staggered the amount of generosity that is given out in the world nowadays. So we've come to a truth that people can be manipulative and that they can take, take, and not give either. So I think what Spirit is trying to say is that we have to come to a point where we understand that there are going to be takers and there are going to be givers. And once we accept that, then maybe we can still give, but we'll do it from a balanced perspective. Hey, Jennifer, welcome. We'll do it from a balanced perspective. That means you only give as much as you can, but don't overgive because you'll leave yourself with nothing and you'll leave yourself sad and upset because you've given so much. Also, we have to look at the issue of narcissism. And the problem with narcissism is that it is on a spectrum, and a lot of people, they're getting that confused with self-love. So there's a lot of people who think, yeah, okay, I need to love myself. That means I deserve, and then they confuse that with entitlement, and they think that they deserve everything when they don't. And I think it's really important that we all start educating others on the difference between entitlement versus self-love. So I don't know. That's just the messages that I'm getting right now from Spirit, and you know what they're saying in the world is don't give up. I mean, in order to create stability, we have to be willing to still give a little bit, right? But also take some time. Take some time to really get to know the truth of a situation or the truth of a person. You know that feeling so well. You keep thinking you're narcissistic, but I know I'm loving and kind, right? And that's the thing, is we need to educate ourselves between the difference of the two. Um, Narcissism is a learned trick, or can also be a bunch of learned behaviors as well. And we will pick them up along the way. They call them narc traits, especially if we come from narcissistic families and whatnot else. And it's very possible that we do behave in certain manners. The good thing is that once we say, if we educate ourselves on what those traits are, we can really take a good hard look at ourselves. And if we're able to self-reflect and we see some of those, we can change it. It's not a problem, right? But this is also on the paradox, and the paradox needs to exist to teach us balance. Is we have to also remember that there are some who are just not capable of self-reflection. They do not have the capacity, and in those cases you have to keep that realistic outlook on life, and you have to keep that that truth within, that not everybody is going to be good and kind and loving. So you have to be very careful and really listen to your intuition. But that being said, don't let it cloud you to a point of no return, to the point where we're getting too closed off to each other, to the point where we hide from intimacy, if you will. And we hide from intimacy because we're worried that we're going to be taken advantage of. We still have to allow ourselves to be open a little bit. So we'll take that energy of generosity upside down and we'll turn it back up. And then you have the number 2-2. And 2-2 is about unions and partnerships and a balanced give and take. All right. So trust your inner guidance. Your inner guidance, your intuition will tell you. So we'll turn this upright and use that amazing intuition that everybody has once they tap into it. So Spirit's guidance right now is surrender to miracles. Be open to miracles occurring in your life. Feel and know that these events are real, and let go of any resistance and banish any doubt that miracles can happen. So it's about staying excited too. You always get caught up in toxic situations with narcs. Yeah, give too much and you end up drained. Exactly. Thank you for the like, whoever that was. Exactly. It's so important to be able to balance the situation. And unfortunately, you really, I think what we do wrong is when we are too trusting and too generous, we jump in immediately. Hey, what's going on in this video today? This is just like a collective reading for basically the energy around the planet and what's going on, and kind of just what spirit wants us to know and look out for to look after ourselves as well as others, right? So where was I was going back. Oh gosh, now I forget what I was saying. I gotta stop interrupting myself because I do this, I lose the plot. So yeah, I don't even know where I was going with that. Anyway, okay, we're gonna have to ixnay that, but let's get going. Let's see what's happening as well. And maybe Spirit is also saying, let's be a little bit more generous in our relationships towards each other, but not to the degree of being taken advantage of. Oh yeah, that's what I was saying. You got to take the time and really give it time. We're conditioned to jump into things and think, oh yeah, everything's going to be wonderful, everything's going to be great, but really give it at least, I know this sounds crazy, but give it at least 6 months to really watch someone's behavior and get to know them, and then you'll see what they're really about, right? Something about when we're too trusting, it works against us, right? Thank you, you guys rock. Okay, so that's the thing, really take the time to get to know someone and stop those internal drugs from releasing, like the feelings that you get when you first meet someone and you're on a high and you're really excited and you think, oh, this is the one, or this is wonderful. No, the truth of the matter is that's dopamine kicking off in your brain. So that is the chemicals in your brain excreting almost like a high of cocaine or heroin, and you get so high on the feelings that you completely lose sight of what's going on. And when you're in a drug-induced reality, guess what happens? You don't see things clearly, right? So definitely take that time for yourselves to get to know me. see what else spirit has for everybody today. What's going on? What did look at that. Cards jumping everywhere. So yeah, I guess the main message is don't confuse narcissism with self-love. And don't confuse confidence with arrogance. It takes a lot. It's just about learning a lot, right? You need to remember that next time. I'm not in love. I'm high. Exactly. It's so funny. I talked to a friend of mine who's a psychoanalyst, and she actually told me about that because I had no idea. I was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, oh, sweetheart. She goes, you don't get it. She goes, you jump in and you're all excited. And she says, and you're ready to give it your all within a week or two. She goes, you need to know you're high. You know, you're basically drugged up. And I'm like, so you're basically saying we're all drug addicts to ourselves? And she said, yes. So we have to learn how much drug we will allow ourselves in the moment, right? Every time, right? Every time you got married off the high, 2 years later. Yes, exactly. Like you're in that high. And I mean, we need to give it at least 6 months. So, what does that mean? What does that look like? That looks like whether it be a friend coming into your life, whether it be a love interest, whether it be, I don't even jobs, you know, you should really do good research. And I say research in terms of looking at how it is. And when you go in, you got to really, you got to pay attention to what the dynamic is like before you just jump in and get all excited and cloudy, right? Struggling with a Sagittarius. Oh dear. Yeah, that's tough. So interestingly, look at the first card that came out that Spirit wants the collective to be aware of. Acting hastily, the innocence of a child, jumping into things without looking. How crazy is this resonating? So the Spirit is saying a lot of us are just jumping in and you know, we're getting carried away with our free will. There's also a spiritual intervention, and they're there to help guide you, but they can't guide you if you just jump. And then all of a sudden what happens, you end up at the bottom of the cliff with a broken arm, broken leg, whatever else, and you can't get yourself home safely. And then you're struggling, asking for help, but nobody's there, right? So you be there for yourself and let spirit guide you, because spirit is with you from the very beginning. A lot of people are awakening too, which is nice. A lot of people are starting to evolve. And when I say evolve, there we go. We're talking about toxicity. We're talking about old patterns of belief systems and old ways of behaving in which we were taught. Now, please keep in mind, a lot of people have been taught, you know, to be jerks. And the reason why is they had no discipline, they had no structure, they had no boundaries implemented, or their boundaries were stepped over. So we can definitely look at this from a state of compassion. A lot of people only know what they know. And the thing is we can lovingly tell them, look, you know, the way you're treating me or the way you're speaking to me is not healthy and I don't like it. If they don't choose to change, then you have to change. And that means walking away from it, right? You don't jump into the toxicity and you don't continue doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Why? Because that is the definition of insanity. Now, you can choose to stay insane if you like. That's okay. But one day you'll get tired of it enough where you get to the point where you realize something has to change, and it's either going to be them or it's going to be me. Is it them or me? Right? And if they ain't going to change and we got to give up that realistic or that unrealistic perception that we can change others, it's going to be us. So what do? We make the change. What card just jumped? Yes. Oh my gosh. Spirit is just saying, what's this? Walk away. Walk away. So Spirit is saying, tune into your intuition, tune into yourself. Really, and especially journaling every day. Get disciplined, get into that habit, because you'll actually be able to have a really good discussion with yourselves and what it is that you need to know. And that higher wisdom within you, otherwise known as the hermit, will show itself, and you'll actually be able to drown out the ego. And the ego is there for what? Protection. But the ego lies. And as I say that, look at this, lies, deceit. Wow, spirit, thank you. I am tuned in today. Um, so this is about actually looking at the facts and straightening out our thought processes. This is the page of swords. So this is the beginning process of intellect. So this is about knowing what the ego was designed to do, and also its dangers, its pros and its cons, if you will. Because when we rely on something too heavily, we don't understand that it can actually be to our detriment. Just like eating fast food all the time, right? What were you saying? Your goodness, this is starting to sound a lot like what I've been having to admit to myself over the last few weeks. Wow. Okay, because you know what? Ironically, I'm even starting to feel myself relating as well to some of this. So maybe I don't know why Spirit said today, just do a collective reading, stop separating people. And I was like, what does that mean, separating people? And Spirit was like, well, the more you read, for example, different signs, then you're separating people as a whole. You're putting them into silos. You're allowing them to stay stuck in those silos, as opposed to our one conscious thinking, right? And actually being able to exist as one. And that is what we are. The only reason why we are different is in that sense, so that we can see and experience the differences. That's the only thing that separates us, is our skin. Otherwise, you cut yourself, you bleed the same color. It doesn't matter what race you are. So Spirit was like, try to bridge the gap between people, right? Hopefully, yeah, hopefully. And recognizing toxic patterns, walking away, and learning the lessons. That's right. And that's another thing too that's very important. And I like the fact that this came out, and thank you, Rachel, good points, is when we don't be truthful with ourselves, then we get stuck in a period where we don't change. This to me is the beginning of changing of the mind. So how do we do that? Repetition, repetition. Lessons, we can sit here and we can say, yeah, we've learned a lesson. And sure, maybe we did for a week, maybe we did for 2 weeks. But the thing is that it needs to be incorporated. So if you find that there is something that is a consistent recurring pattern, you got to discipline yourself. And if that means waking up every morning and repeating a mantra to yourself, whatever it takes to get that embedded into your brain is what's going to make it happen, right? Because it takes action. So let's see what else we got. I think a lot of us just weren't taught, these basic things, or taught the difference between, wow, the difference between parenting and self-parenting, and we have to learn these lessons on our own. Check it out, The Lovers. So what is starting to happen now is people are starting to merge within themselves. They're starting to love themselves, and they're starting to differentiate, as I was talking about, ironically, ego, right? Addiction to our own drugs in our brain, addiction to vices, addiction to external, and we're starting to go within, and we're starting to merge as one. And as we do that, we start to attract love and cultivate love all over the world. It's quite beautiful, really. You're always truthful to yourself. Only problem is this willpower fighting against the comfort of being consistent on working on. Yes, exactly, right? And it's funny because what I learned too from another friend of mine too, another psychoanalyst, was she said that the ego needs to survive. And so because it needs to survive, it will trick us and it will constantly pull us back. And it does so because it thinks it's protecting us by recreating old patterns that we've always lived under. So we literally have to work with our ego, right? So it's almost like differentiating these parts of ourselves and having internal dialogues with them both. So it's like your higher self says to your ego. And that's why journaling is so good, right? You can actually write it out. Like, what is your higher self trying to say to your ego? Which is, trust me, I can do this. I know you've protected me this long, but you know what? Now it's time to change, because maybe that worked in that old predicament, but it doesn't work now. So now you need to give me the control. And then as you balance out these different hierarchies within your own psyche, it's incredible how you can come to this balance and this whole, right? You just started the self-love journey today in a unique way. Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, and that's what this is, right? That's what the lovers also indicates, is being able to come into a wholeness within yourself. But not only that, the interesting thing too is that I like this card because if we look at it from a spiritual point of view, this is talking about that point in time where we get an understanding, a deep understanding that it's no longer about external, right? Like, do you see how he's holding her up and he's just completely enamored with her? No, actually, the truth is they're only reflecting back to us what it is that we have within ourselves or what we really truly believe about life. So if we have bad relationships, guess what? There's something deep down inside that's either telling us, like, there's a core thought, which is, oh, don't trust relationships, or don't trust men, or don't trust women, or don't trust this. And that's the purpose of external people, is just to reflect back to us what we're actually really believing within ourselves. So it's quite an interesting journey if you look at the world as a reflection, as a mirror. So when someone is mean to you, ask yourself, am I mean to me? And I guarantee you, if you listen to your thought processes or you pay attention to, the things that you tell yourself, the inner critic, guaranteed you're mean to you. So the first thing the ego will do is say, oh, it's that person over there. They're horrible. But the truth is, they're only reflecting back to you how you allow yourself to be treated even by yourself. Does that make sense? It's quite fascinating, really. So anyway, a lot of you are getting to this beautiful point now where you're learning to love yourselves, but not from a narcissistic point of view. And that is going to make you feel whole. And once you feel whole, that's when you attract others around you that reflect that love to you. So for example, once you start talking to yourself nicely, like here's a good example. You need to go and vacuum the floor. What the heck? You're so lazy. No, 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 no. Like all this self chatter. And then that prevents you. You literally start rebelling, right? Because then there's that inner child that says, you know what? Don't talk to me like this. Like now I'm not going to do anything. So you're literally at war within yourself. But the second you start talking nicer to yourself, which is, you know what? If you do that vacuuming, you're going to feel really good about it for the week because you're going to feel like you're in an organized environment. It's going to feel clean and comfortable. All of a sudden, your inner child's going to say, yeah, you know what? That's what I want. I want that comfort. Then you'll do it, right? And then you're going to start attracting people who talk to you in that way. They're not going to, give you shit or tell you, listen, you need to, no, no, no. They're going to say, hey, maybe this would help you out, or maybe that would help you out. But the thing is, what's beautiful about that too is that anybody else that starts coming along and they start, I don't know, nipping at you or yiping at you or being ignorant in their demands, you will recognize it now as toxic because you're treating yourself good, and you'll be able to reject it. And you won't get mad at it because you'll understand that it's simply a reflection of how you're treating yourself. So you'll be like, oh, thank you, universe. Okay, bye. And you'll move on and treat yourself better. Do you see what I'm saying? It's quite fascinating. Anyways, let's move on. And wow, what did I just say? And then you get to your wish fulfillment. Look at that, the 9 of Cups. You get everything that you want. You get dreams coming true. You get contentment. You get happy. You feel really good because you're no longer overindulging in things or confusing yourself as to what is, supposed to be leading you. You start to trust yourself. You become whole within yourself. And then you start really attracting incredible people like I have in the chat right now. Look at all of you. You're amazing, right? And if I would have kept talking to myself the way I used to, I wouldn't have you guys around. So there we go. The collective has a lack of love, but what's interesting is once they start being nicer to themselves and showing up for themselves and being more accountable for their side of the street, if you will, then they're able to share that love with others because they've got a full cup. Then it starts overflowing. And then what happens? then we can be generous in the world, and then things get so much better, and it starts having a ripple effect. So I think that that's what the important message is here. And look at that, knowing the difference between like we were saying, willpower, which is usually driven by ego, versus actual discipline coming from a soul level. So Spirit is even saying, you know, the energy around us right now, a lot of us are operating from ego and fear, and we're just, you know, we're not looking at where we're going, especially with this Fool card. And if we're not looking at it and we're not starting with ourselves, we're just running over each other and hurting each other, and it will just continue. It's quite an interesting paradox. So Spirit is saying, take that time with yourself and start being good to yourself. I don't know. I want to hear next week how all of you started talking nicer to yourselves. And just as I say that, look what comes up. Page of Cups. Loving communication. Loving communication with yourself. That's where it starts. And then you'll start seeing it in the external. So start being good to yourself. Start getting in touch with your emotions. Start appreciating that they are the biggest and best teachers that we have, because it's your senses. They'll tell you when something's right or wrong, right? And then look what happens. Oh, those cycles end and a new world is created. Are you kidding me? Holy Spirit, thank you. Look at this reading. We started at the beginning of the Fool's journey, right? And we ended with the world, which is the end of the freaking journey itself. And we just had this whole lesson explained on how to actually heal this cycle. You gotta admit, that's pretty freaky. I just think that's pretty freaky. So yeah, that's what I'm getting right now. Let's see about let's see what else Spirit has in terms of some further guidance. Not that we really need it. I mean, that was pretty impressive. But today's message is basically knowing the difference between self-love and ego. Oh no, I'll save that one till the end. Let's do this one. And I hope that you're all doing good today. Surrender frustration. So something that will help us as we change and grow is surrender frustration. Frustration doesn't open any doors. The key to resolving a dilemma or dissolving a block is to take a breath, center yourself, and regroup so you may approach the situation more calmly. Isn't that beautiful? And Chris, you were just saying that too. You know, it's just that frustration of getting stuck in between the two. So it's just take a deep breath, and again, just try again. Just over and over, and it's about repeating things. So let us get, wow, brilliant. I am healthy and filled with energy. So turning this around, I have wonderful energy that sustains me throughout each day. I am radiant, vital, and alive. Again, speaking to how everything comes from yourself. Anything that you want to experience, anything that you want to create, it all comes from within. Awesome. I don't know if this helped anybody, but I thought it was a pretty cool reading. I'll get into the usual love readings now for everyone, and I'll do that separately for each sign. But I don't know, hopefully this message resonated for someone, and I'm sending you guys so much love. Remember, be nice to yourselves, okay? Because if the world's going to get more generous, we have to be generous to ourselves first. All right. Have a wonderful day, you guys, and sending you so, so, so much love. You needed that today? Oh, you're welcome. You know what? Don't come at yourself from a place of judgment or anger or shame, anything like that. No, you come at yourself like as if everything is brand new and it's just another opportunity. That's the one thing. We hate change, but yet change is amazing because that gives us that opportunity. Imagine if things always stayed the way that they always have been. You'd always be in shit situations. So this is always opportunities to change and grow. All right? So don't shame yourself for simply learning. That's all it is. It's just learning. All right, you guys, love you, and I'll see you again really soon. Thank you so much for being here with me. Mwah. Bye.